Hello and welcome to State of the Economy. Today we have with us Mr. N C Saxena, Former Secretary Rural Development, as also presently advisor to UNDP. But more importantly, he's worked on social policies and their delivery systems. He's been chairman of a BPL committee, which is widely used today. The findings of that committee is widely used for delivery of welfare programs. Welcome to our show, Mr. N C Saxena.
Thank you.
Now, we invited you to essentially discuss the new socio-economic and caste census findings. Since you've been associated with this exercise for a long time and you have been associated with the delivery of welfare programs targeted at various groups, especially the poor. What are your first impressions of the census? So far, we've only got the rural sector results. We don't have the census results for the urban sector, nor do we have the caste for caste either. But on rural sector, what are your thoughts?
Let me give the background first, because I was the chairman of the committee which had recommended this categorization. You know, when we talk about poverty, there are two basic issues. One is how many poor, and the other is who is the poor, who are the poor. Now, the first issue is decided by a sample survey done by NSSO, and Planning Commission has given a figure of 22% people living below poverty line. But who are these people? How do we identify that in this village XYZ is poor? On that, unfortunately, the previous attempts done in 1992, 97 and 2002 yielded very unsatisfactory results. And in fact, Planning Commission's 11th plan itself says that only 1/3 of the poor have got BPL cards, and 60% cards have been given to the non-poor. So Government of India set up a committee under my chairmanship in 2009 to suggest a good methodology as to how to identify the rural poor. And I said that you divide the entire population into three groups. Those who have to be compulsorily included. These are the primitive tribal groups, bonded labor.
Scheduled caste, scheduled tribe?
No, not scheduled caste, scheduled tribe. No.
But this one includes scheduled caste also?
No. Compulsorily included are a very narrow category. Primitive tribes, bonded labor, homeless people, and one or two more. Then those who have to be compulsorily excluded.
This is what your committee you're talking about.
My committee, same. They have made some changes, but almost same. And then the rest would be measured on a number of deprivations. If you are scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, that is one deprivation. If you are a female-headed household, another deprivation. If you are do not have any earning member in the family, third deprivation. So those families who are deprived on all the 7 indicators, they should be selected first. The whole idea was that state governments and departments can select the beneficiaries according to a rational and transparent classification. Otherwise, what used to happen was, in Indira Awas Yojana, you have to give 5 houses in a village. There are 50 poor people. How do you select them? There was patronage, etc. Now, that is the
So this is an asset-based criteria and an income criteria. It's a combination of both.
Well, it's a combination of such factors which can easily be verified and where there could be very little discretion. Unfortunately, some of my recommendations were not accepted. I had said that you do this survey in an open house, in a Gram Sabha, so that there is no cheating. Otherwise, what will happen is a surveyor comes to me, he says, Mr. Saxena, have you got a 2-bedroom house? I said, no. I live on the street. Are you a graduate? No, sir, I'm totally illiterate. Or he might say, I will record that you are illiterate and give me 1,000 rupees. In order to make the whole survey process transparent, it was necessary to do it openly. That was not done. And surveyor was sent to each household. Now, on paper, you say that we have verified this list through the Sarpanch, etc. But we all know that this often leads to a lot of inclusion and exclusion errors.
So you're saying that the census could still be flawed at some level?
Well, in fact, when you look at the results,
because when it was being conducted, people knew why it was being conducted.
Yeah.
Is that your point?
First of all, the exact nature of deficiency we will know only when we verify this list in the ground.
Okay.
But on the face of it, when you look at the data carefully, you find a large number of anomalies.
Okay.
First of all, the categories have been very narrowly defined, with the result that you find that 2 crore households have been left out.
How?
In fact, what they have said is that some people have to be compulsorily included.
Okay.
Now, and some people have to be excluded. Now, the exclusion list has become quite big.
Yeah. Based on assets that they own.
Based on the assets they own. It is almost covering about 50% of the people.
Yeah.
And then they say that 2 crore households are not fitting into any deprivation.
Okay. So you don't know whether they are excluded or they are included?
No, they are not. They can't be included. Because
they are not excluded either?
Because they are not suffering from any deprivation.
Okay.
That is one. So therefore it shows
And you're saying they are not excluded either?
No, I'll tell you how the categories are very narrowly defined. If you look at Rural Development Ministry's website, you find that they are saying that 2 crore families are without house, and Indira Awas Yojana in the next 4 years will cover them. Okay. Now, when you look at this, you find that in that category where you have not only homeless but bonded labor plus all kinds of people, you find total number only 16 lakhs. Only 16 lakhs families are put in that category, which has to be compulsorily included. Sure. Whereas the category of homeless people, according to the Rural Development website, is 2 crore. Similarly, you find that I had suggested that the female-headed households should be, they should be identified and they should be considered as deprived. Now, here what they have done is female-headed households with no adult male member between 16 and 59. What does it mean? It means I am a widow. I have got one son who is 17-year-old who is studying. I am supporting him. I can't be considered.
Okay.
Because he is more than 16 years. Okay. He should have been with no other earning member. So when you define the categories very narrowly, you end up by having a result.
So what will be the result of this?
The result of this is that a very large number of people would be totally excluded from any benefits, and there is going to be a lot of dissatisfaction in the rural areas. Okay. There are many such examples. If you look at the...
So essentially what you're saying is that the finding of the census that only 49% of the rural population is deprived on one count or the other may be an underestimate. Considering that you said 2 crore households are neither here nor there. They are in a limbo. So
therefore, according to this...
So logically you might have to add them to this 14%.
That's right. Because according to this, only 49% households, plus of course you add to that compulsory included, which is just about 0.1%. Add to that, it is still less than 50%. We are saying according to this, 50% of rural India is well off. Now this does not tally with the results of the NSSO and the census. Yeah. National Sample
Also, it does not tally with an important benchmark which this survey itself brings out.
That's right.
Which is that 75% of the households are in the category of the highest income earner at less than 5,000 rupees a month.
5,000.
Now, that is clearly a deprived category.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So,
the National Sample Survey data shows that in rural areas, 70% of the families are earning less than 50 rupees per day per capita.
Okay.
That was the basis of the Food Security Act, that 50 rupees in rural areas and 70 rupees in urban areas. Okay. 70 rupees, those who are earning less than 70 rupees per day per capita was 50%. Okay. So government included 70% in rural areas and 50% in urban areas.
Okay.
Now this data shows that only less than 50% are deprived. So therefore, there is this contradiction between
NSS and this data.
So, similarly, in census, if you look at the census says that 86% people have no room at all, whereas here the number is less than 12 lakhs. 86 lakhs versus 12 lakhs.
Yeah.
If you look, if you look at the data on government servants, it's very interesting. The total number of government servants in India, I'm including all those who are in Government of India, state governments, public sector undertakings, plus local bodies, including all the 4 or 5 categories, is only 1,76 lakhs.
Yeah.
And now everyone knows that most of them are living in big cities. Delhi, Lucknow, Kanpur, these are the places where...
So do you think there's a need to now sit and try to match NSS data with this?
So let me complete. So therefore, against 1,76 lakhs, this says that 89 lakh government servants have their families in rural areas, which is not true. What I'm saying is that, coming to your question, see, they should have verified this data through the NSSO and census. To what extent the new data is consistent with the previous data. That has not been done. And therefore, there are so many anomalies.
Can that still be done? Can they try to reconcile NSS data with this one?
It depends on what is the purpose of this exercise.
The purpose is clearly to use them for delivery of welfare programs.
There is an issue here. Earlier in 2009, when we were doing this exercise, there were a large number of programs which were exclusively directed to the BPL.
Okay.
Now, fortunately, very large number of
programs are being delivered to much wider sections of the population.
Have become either universal or what can be called BPL plus.
BPL plus.
BPL plus.
We'll take a small break here and discuss some of those programs. Please don't go away and keep watching RS TV. Welcome back to State of the Economy. We are having a very interesting conversation with Mr. N C Saxena on the new socio-economic and caste census and the various complexities that are emerging in the census. So, sir, you were talking about the basic objective of this census, which is to identify people. A much larger section, going beyond the BPL category to target these programs. Now, how do we proceed?
Earlier in 1992, 97, and even in 2002, when the Rural Development Ministry got the survey done through the state governments, the idea was to use that list for basically rural development programs and for the food security program, which was at that point of time and up to now, it was only for the BPL population. So having a BPL card meant a great deal for the food security, for getting subsidized rations. Now, in the last 5-6 years, a number of things have happened. Number one,
food security has become more universalized.
In fact, if you recall, in October 2012, the Minister of Rural Development and the Deputy Chairman Planning Commission issued a statement. And the statement very clearly said that this list will not be used for deciding the beneficiaries. The states are free and ministries are free to decide their own number. And any number, the BPL number, which is 25% in rural areas today, it will not be, it is not some kind of a ceiling. There's not a cap.
Which is already happening.
Which is already happening.
For instance, Chhattisgarh is delivering subsidized food to more than 80% of the population.
Not only
Bihar is delivering to 85% of the population.
Not only the states. In Government of India itself, the Ministry of Rural Development itself has changed its guidelines for, say, for sanitation. Earlier, sanitation subsidy was available only to BPL families. Now they say BPL plus all scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, plus women-headed households, plus marginal farmers, plus small farmers. So therefore, a large number of categories have been used, and their website shows that 85% people will be covered by the BPL. So therefore, then the most important change took place in the food security, on the food security front, when 70% of rural and 50% of urban were selected. So therefore, this data will be used only for a very small number of schemes which have been left out, like the pension program, which is for the BPL, like it could be for some state government schemes. Otherwise, government affiliated schemes are either today universal, like SSA, NRHM, ICDS, or they are BPL plus. And therefore, the categorization and the whole purpose of this has become rather insignificant, if not irrelevant, because schemes are already, the list of beneficiaries has been enlarged by the states, as you said, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha.
11 states are delivering it to more than 70% of the rural population.
No, but there is a very interesting point here.
But the interesting thing is, Mr. Saxena, the point I was getting at is, this report might give justification to people who, in this government, who want to actually pair the coverage of population under food security. There's a Shanta Kumar committee which spoke about 40% as a more appropriate target of the population, not 67% of the food security law says. So, could there be a move to actually reduce the number of people and to reduce the universally delivered characteristic of many of the schemes?
Actually, political economy and political compulsions are such that the large programs which have once been announced, like the NREGA or food security, I do not think any government has the guts to dilute those programs. Merit or demerit being different. If you recall, when 3 years back...
Also, as you said, since the states under fiscal federalism that this government swears by, if the states decide to give it to 70% of the rural population, how can centre tell them not to do it?
Any attempt to dilute the Food Security Act or the even NREGA, etc., might have political compulsion and consequences, and therefore there would be difficult. At the same time, once this result is discussed by the civil society, if you recall, in 2012, when government said that 27 rupees is the cutoff for BPL, there was a great deal of agitation, and government was forced to appoint another Rangarajan committee. So therefore, any attempt to narrow down and reduce benefits to the people, to reduce safety net programs, they will have to consider the political consequences, and that is not very likely. And also all these issues of...
What about other programs besides the food security?
Well, in fact, as you said, that this government may not be very keen to implement Food Security Act. And they have already taken some decisions which show that they are indifferent or a bit hostile. For instance, they decided that they will not buy rice under levy scheme. So therefore, the total quantity of rice which is being procured would become less. Again, after March 2014, not a single state has been added to the 13 states which were already in the National Food Security Act program. So, states like Bihar or Chhattisgarh or Delhi, which were already put in the National Food Security list by the UPA government. After that, there has been no addition. Interestingly, when I took up this issue with the Ministry of Food and Public Distribution, they say that they have been asking the states to revise their list according to the SSCC. And the states are not keen. Now, either the states are under pressure from the old list of beneficiaries, which is already there with them, 80%, 90%, whatever it is. Or the states do not have full trust in their own data that they have collected through SCCC. But the ministry says that the states are very reluctant to revise their list of beneficiaries as per the SCCC. So, therefore...
We come back to the point you were making that you cannot reduce the number of beneficiaries.
That's right. So, therefore, SCCC, to what extent it will be used, I have my doubt. I think this has become a very expensive exercise. Crores have been spent on this with very little of benefit.
What about the politics around the caste survey? What is your view on that?
Well, that is another very interesting issue, because if the caste results which are available with government but not declared...
The first time since independence, no?
That's right. After 1932, there is no caste
no caste survey. Yeah.
If that is declared, it might show that all Jats are quite prosperous and not one of them is deprived. So the Jats will not going to like it. They will not going to vote.
Yeah.
So therefore, the political support which any party has from certain groups, that will get disturbed if that census is declared. So that census will be declared only when you have no state elections in mind.
Also, it's possible that the OBC category, if 75% of the population has, as the census shows, 75% of the households have the highest income earner at below 5,000 rupees a month.
That's right.
Tomorrow, a large number of them might be from the OBC category, and they may raise demand for reservation, which currently the Supreme Court caps at 50%. It could lead to those political demands also, right?
No, in fact, that is. I don't think the number of reserved posts will go beyond 49%. That is not an issue. The issue would be, it might show that within the OBC there are some groups. It could be Jats, it could be Yadavs. They are not as poor, and their number, it might show that their incomes have risen and they are above the cap which has been imposed by government.
Okay.
So therefore, they might ask government to revise that cap and say that if it is, I think it's about 20,000 rupees per month just now, make it 30,000. So therefore, they might ask for revision.
What about OBCs other than Jats and Yadavs?
Yeah, there are
very deprived categories.
Yeah, there are of course a large number of OBCs which are as poor as the Dalits, and they could be Kevards, they could be Muslim artisans, etc. So therefore, that will certainly show. And it might also show that they might ask, that Dalit Christians, they might say that, look, we are as backward as the SCs, so why are you depriving us?
Sure.
So there could be a great deal of agitation, and in fact, it was not a good idea to include caste, because you are then in a permanent, you are arresting the whole population and not allowing them to come out of their caste mind.
Okay.
And it will further and it will accentuate caste feeling.
The other view is that since it's a reality, then why not sort of face the reality?
No, but what is the advantage in declaring that number? What is the advantage in declaring that number?
So do you get the sense that the government might sort of nudge the states? Of course, they swear by fiscal federalism and cooperative federalism, the spirit of cooperative federalism. They may allow states considerable freedom to use the SEC survey as per their wish. But do you sense that there is a certain pressure coming from the center to pair some of these welfare schemes in the name of leakage, etc., to correct the fiscal deficit of the center, which of course the finance minister has promised to to the global multilateral bodies and to global to credit rating agencies, etc. So are we also under pressure of those compulsions?
No, in fact, I think this government will follow the same strategy which was followed by the UPA in the last 2 years, which is killing the schemes with benign neglect. That is what they will do is, they will not change the parameters, they will not change the scheme. The scheme will remain on paper as it is. Not release funds, not release food grain. This is what happened to Narega in the last 2 years. Okay. So if you don't release funds for Narega, people will not come. Then you can say, there is so much of prosperity, people are not wanting Nareka work. So you reduce supply.
So kind of backdoor fiscal squeezing will happen.
That's right. Yeah. That is what. Yeah. So formally there will be no change. Because any formal change has political implications. But informally they will try to squeeze welfare programs, especially safety net programs. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. N C Saxena, for talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of State of the Economy. We'll be back to you next week. Thanks for watching.